Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to the second last in season episode of the Ultimate Hockey Show. Why do I know this? Not because the Tampa Bay Lightning have a 3-0 lead and a chance to win the Stanley Cup tonight, but we know that Game 7, if it is necessary, would be played next Sunday night, and we have a show on Monday. So either way, this is our second last
Yep.
in season episode of the Ultimate Hockey Show. Coming at you live from my den, otherwise known as behind the radio studio. We've had quite a situation. Quite honestly, my radio station hasn't been running since Saturday afternoon, waiting for tech help, which is slow to get to me because of the Independence Day holiday in the States. And today is the holiday in lieu of 4th of July, which was yesterday. So they're telling me it's going to be resolved at some point tomorrow. Welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show, Michael Dell, Red Petty. I don't think you need the name bars by now. I'm on the left. Rhett is on the right. Welcome to those of you watching in the capital region, whether you're on a beach somewhere beating the heat, or somewhere in Western Canada beating the heat, or anywhere beating the heat. Welcome to the show. And I maintain that based on the weather we've had here in Winnipeg in the last 10 days, hockey should not be played in July. So hopefully this will be the last time that we deal with the hockey Stanley Cup final in July. There is also a tropical storm warning for Tampa. So sounds like any Game 5 being played could potentially be in jeopardy with a tropical storm. But we'll deal with that if and when Tampa doesn't wrap up tonight. Welcome, Red Petty. Obviously, 3-0 series lead for Tampa. That is our top story. And I know I picked Montreal to win this series, and I'm looking very, very bad now. It appears the clock will strike midnight on Cinderella here in the next couple of days.
Do you remember what I said when we had our show, not last week, but the week before? Do you remember what I said 2 weeks ago?
No.
And you couldn't believe it? I said, because you were saying, oh, what happens? Because I said, listen, the Canadians and the Islanders, they're interesting. If you're from New York or Montreal, you think this is great. But I said, they cannot carry the lunch of Vegas and Tampa Bay. And I said, there is no way, that was my statement, is no way that the Islanders or the Canadians are going to have their name on the Stanley Cup this year. And then you said, what? And I said, that's what I'm telling you. I said, the Islanders and the Canadians will not, neither one of them will win the Stanley Cup, because I thought it would be in the final Vegas against Tampa Bay. So I was wrong about Montreal against Vegas, but I think my prediction will still hold true that neither Montreal nor New York will win the Stanley Cup this year. So,
well, I mean, that's just the way it's been. I know you've been gone for most of this series, but I have a feeling you have somewhat of an idea what went on.
I watched. I have PVR just like everyone else. Listen, you can't do a show like this if you don't actually watch the games, right? So I watched the games.
True. Yeah. Tampa full march for their 3-0 series lead starting last Monday night. 2-1 to the third period, and then Nikita Kucherov with a pair of third period goals as part of an onslaught. And that led Montreal to fall 5-1 in the opening game of the series. Game 2 on Wednesday night was all Montreal. More particularly, the second period was all Montreal until there was 0.2 seconds left in the period. And I just finished saying, I don't know who it was to, but I said Montreal dominated this period so badly, but it would all come undone if there was a goal in the final minute or final second. And sure enough, fortunate bounce slash bad clear slash bad take of the man by Ben Sherratt slash Philip Deneau being caught in no man's land result in Tampa squeaking uh, a 2-1 lead going into the third period of game two in a game in which they had no business really being in because Montreal outshot them 18-2 in the second period, or 18-3. And then the third one was the goal. And Montreal came out in the third period with a little bit of an effort, but you could see that late second period goal, as most type of those goals do, takes the wind out of the team, especially 0.9 seconds. And to be quite honest with you, Montreal hasn't been the same team since that late second period goal. And I thought, okay, you know what? Give them the benefit of the doubt. They're coming home up 2-0. That
you mean down 2-0.
Oh yeah, they came home down 2-0. I'm thinking, okay, not over yet. So somebody loses on home ice, and then I was very, very disappointed 5 minutes into the game. Crowds ready, hundreds of people, thousands of people outside, 3,500 in the rink. They're all ready to go, and Montreal proceeds to give up 2 goals before the game is even 5 minutes old, and before people can get back from the beverage line. They're down 2-0, and the air is out of the building. The air is out of the team. Not exactly the way you want to come home. And Montreal was fighting it right from the get-go. And that's not something you can do against Tampa Bay. And that's where we are now, thanks to 2 late goals and a goal by Montreal. The final score was 6-3.
Right. And the second game, it ended up being 3-1.
Okay.
Right. So they lost 5-1, then 3-1.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 5-1, 3-1, and 6-3.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, we're upon assessment with this series, and I don't know if you see it any other way. I looked at the goaltending. Carey Price has just not been good enough. Andrei Vasilevsky has been great for Tampa, including game 2. Yep. And you know what? Unfortunately, a sub 900 goals against average ain't gonna get it done in any round. Never mind the Stanley Cup final. Not that I'm blaming Carey Price by any means, but Price has not been good. The team has not been good in front of him. Tampa Bay has made a living out of Montreal turnovers anywhere on the ice. See the exhibit of game 1 and a little bit of game 3. And that just makes this task all the more hard. And Tampa should be full marks for their 3-0 lead.
Yeah, they got outplayed. You're right in the second game for a large, and all the second period for a huge chunk of the second game. But that happens sometimes, right? So even when you get outplayed, even when you outplay the other team and you don't score, you still got to hang in there and you got to be better because the other team, if they just get one chance, they could actually bury it. And all the work that you did is for naught when they come back the other way and only get a couple shots on net and end up with the only goal of the period. So it happens. But to me, it just shows again. I know we talked about it before, but I'm going to say it again. The Lightning are a very good team. They have lots of good talent on that team, but they have an even extra amount of talent on that team because they are $10 to $15 million over the salary cap with the players they have on their roster. And it's just the way it worked out this year. I'd like to see that change because it's not fair and it's not right. And it ends up making things very inequitable when it comes down to Stanley Cup Finals. And not that I care that Montreal should win because I'm not a Montreal fan. I actually like that they're losing. It actually makes me happy. Like anytime that anytime that the Leafs lose and the Canadians lose, I'm more happy than if the Jets win. But that's just me. That's just the way I grew up, and that's how I am. So that being said, I just think it's not right. And the Lightning, to me, have totally outclassed Montreal. They just have more talent. They have more scoring ability, more talent, more experience, more scoring ability. They've had way better net minding. They've been much better when they've needed to be on special teams. All of those things to score like a goal at the right moment to swing the momentum your way. All those things the Lightning have done and Montreal hasn't done. And it's not that you could say, oh, Montreal's played terrible. Like I don't like if I'm a Montreal fan, it's just the way it is. Like it's that your team is just not good enough. It's look at the Jets had all the holes the Jets had. They beat Edmonton. Then you figure, oh, they beat Edmonton 4 straight. They're gonna walk all over Montreal. And Montreal exposed the holes that are in the Jets lineup. Even with Hellebuck making all those saves, their faults were exposed. And now the Lightning are doing to Montreal exactly what Montreal did to Winnipeg, which tells you what a discrepancy there is between the Lightning and the Habs, and tells you even more what a discrepancy there is between the Lightning and the Jets, or the Lightning and the Oilers. The Jets are not there. There's a reason why the Lightning are winning 2 championships in a row, because they're a very good team.
So what did the discrepancy say between the Canadians and the Golden Knights? Were the Golden Knights just tired from playing the quality team in Minnesota and Colorado and ran out of bullets?
Maybe, but to me, there could be another story with the Golden Knights, because the Golden Knights have so much talent. That is, in essence, the same team that played against the Jets in 2018 and knocked them out to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. So they have a lot of talent, but their scoring ability, Riley Smith, William Karlsson, Mark Stone, like they're really big guns went AWOL. And except for Max Pacioretty, which scored here and there, he couldn't do it on his own. That team had no scoring from anybody that should be scoring. And that's what hurt them. They could not score against Montreal. If they give Montreal credit, they played a system. But whatever system Montreal's trying to play against Lightning, it just shows you the Lightning can play that way, and they've just got so much ability, just so much more skill. That team is loaded. Like the Lightning are just a loaded team. They have a ton of talent, and they know how to play really well when the time is right. So
here's the question then. What do we make of the Islanders in Tampa Bay? Because I'm just trying to think, like, who gave Tampa the biggest, stiffest challenge to get here? I mean, they beat a pretty good Florida team. They beat a pretty good Carolina team. They beat an Islander team, although it took 7 games.
I think the Islanders, they gave them the most run for their money, for sure, because the Islanders play a way that's in some ways similar to the Lightning, but the Islanders play that rope-a-dope. We're going to cause turnovers on you. You're going to cause turnovers on us. And we're going to play really well defensively and score when we get our opportunities. And the Islanders, their problem was they couldn't get the Lightning to turn over the puck enough as they get other teams to do. Like the Lightning caused the Penguins to turn over the puck all the time. The Lightning are too good for that. So they didn't turn over the puck at the same way that the Penguins did. So then the Lightning can't score. And the Lightning, even though the Lightning won 3 games, remember that Lightning won more games the Islanders won more games against the Lightning than any other team this year. So that tells you the Islanders are a very good team. They are built for playoff hockey. Your style, play your system, score when you need to, turn pucks over, and play really good in your own zone, and you can win.
So do we need to, and this kind of leads into a more general discussion, because we have a whole hour to talk about 3 games, and that kind of gets dry after a while. So I'm going to turn this conversation somewhere else, and that is, do we make rush to judgment a little too much on the regular season?
Well, but you've said it on shows in the past, and I've said it too. You just need to get in, right? You need to get in, stay healthy, and play your system and have great goaltending and get the goals from people you don't expect because the other team is probably going to shut down or do all they can to shut down your superstars. So you got to get third and fourth line scoring, secondary scoring. Yep, and I agree there. Rob Somerville just made the comment, just added it. The Islanders play a similar game to the Lightning. They just don't have the same offensive punch, and that's exactly it. They gave the Lightning all they could handle, all that they could handle, and it could have gone either way. Like it's Game 7, anything can happen.
Game 7, 1-0.
Yep, Islanders turned over a whole bunch of pucks on the Lightning. The Lightning turned over a whole bunch of pucks on the Islanders, and the only difference was, and I agree, is that the Lightning just have a little bit more scoring ability, offensive touch, whatever you want to call it, that got them more timely goals than the Islanders. But look, the Islanders are one win away from the Stanley Cup final, and they would have beaten Montreal too. So the Islanders are a very, very good team. Not a lot of people give them credit. I always underestimate them, but that is a good team. They play their system very, very well. And they give Lightning all they could handle.
Yeah. So if I'm gonna ask this question, I'm not even gonna bother because it's gonna be repetitive based on what we spent the last 20 minutes talking about. My question was, what does Montreal have to do to get back in the series? And I added the answer is do everything better.
Yeah, sure. That you could say that. Yeah, actually, their head coach would probably say that we need to do everything better. But you know what? It's hard because Montreal plays a good team game, and yet the Lightning still find enough cracks in the armor to win. So that just tells you, what can Montreal do? Montreal could play a really good game and still might only be going into the third period 1-1 and still outplay the Lightning, outchance them and out everything, go into the third period 1-1, and then an unlucky bounce, boom, and they lose 2-1 late in the third period or in the first period of overtime. So I just think you can see it now that that Montreal is just not in the same class as the Lightning. The Lightning, and I would put in there, the Islanders are right up there. Probably Carolina, Vegas are kind of right there too. They're just at an elite level, and Montreal is just. I think Montreal had a much easier road overall to get to the Stanley Cup final than the Lightning did, and now the Lightning are exposing Montreal for the flaws that they have in their game or in their team or in their lineup, if you want to say. So, and it's not even that Montreal's playing bad. Let me say that. It's not that Montreal can do all the right things, but you're limited by your talent, right? You are limited. You can only play as good as the skill players you have and the system you have and everything else. And if another team has more skill players and they play their system and you have less skill players and you play your system, odds are the team with more skill is going to win. So that's just the way it is. So,
but again, I just want to caution people. The division, the league format, the Canadian team in the Final Four is what it is. No format to bring the lead back in a COVID situation was going to suffice to everybody. Everybody had to give and take.
Yep.
It's a pain that the playoffs were season within division. It's a pain that the playoffs were in division. It's a pain that you didn't see anybody until, anybody else until the Final Four. It's a pain that these two teams haven't played in the final. It is what it is. It's the cards that they've been dealt. They know what they signed up for.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you don't like it, unfortunately, you're going to have to live with it because you're not going to like every scenario.
Have to live with it this year.
Yeah. The alternative would have been no hockey at all. And I don't think that would have sat well with anybody.
Yeah.
So, just be happy we got the hockey we got. Was it perfect? No. Were there cancellations? Yes. Were they compressed scheduled? Yes. Was the playoff format fair? Probably not. But they did the best that they could under the circumstances. And to me, I'm just very happy that there was a hockey season, but they found a way to make it work. But I'm about ready to go back to the old format, the way things were. One
Yep.
more year with the in division before I would look at reseeding the division teams 1, 2, and then your next 5 teams, regardless of division, make it so that your top 2 teams in each conference meet in the conference final instead of in the second round if they happen to fall from the same division. But that's a discussion for another day because I'm not willing to have that discussion today because I'm just grateful that we are in a Stanley Cup final and but they found a way to play hockey.
So let me ask you this then.
Okay.
We're going to look back if we both live that long, but let's say 10 years from now,
Yep.
20 years from now, we're going to look back at the Lightning team, the Lightning mini dynasty, if you will, of 2020, 2021. A lot of people, I think, we're going to forget about COVID, or we're not going to forget about COVID and the impact it had for all, but we might forget that it aligned with these 2 seasons. So in reality, the Lightning have won the 2 COVID seasons, the 2 COVID impacted seasons, both compressed schedules, funny playoff schedules, either in either the, you want to call, I guess, the pool bubble, if you will, of 2020, and then with the compressed schedule and the Northern Division and all the ways that were for 2021. Do you think that the Lightning would have still been Stanley Cup champions if there had been no COVID and they had played the irregular systems over the last 2 years?
That is a darn good question. I'm going to say they made the Final Four. I think there were teams that made it this year that wouldn't have made it, and I'm looking at Winnipeg. I'm looking at Montreal. I don't think would have made it in the current division that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be. But Tampa had as good a chance as any, I think, to win. You looked at their personnel from last year to this year. You looked at their personnel from last year to even 3 years ago. Tampa was a discussion point as far as Stanley Cup. You know, they had multiple conference finals. Teams where they leads in seasons where they came close. I believe they lost a conference final in 7 games. But regardless of what the format is, Tampa would have been there, I think. Even now, some of the playoff teams may have been different, but I still expected Tampa to be in the mix. And then, you know, there's teams that I think would have done about the same, and there's teams that would have done worse. But Tampa would have had a shot to repeat. I'm just not sure. Now, I know the West Division with Vegas, Colorado still would have been a challenge. I think Edmonton would have had a better playoff seeding than they did playing in that division. I think Calgary is a playoff team in that Pacific Division. Minnesota's probably a playoff team in the Central. Colorado's a playoff team in the Central. St. Louis is a playoff team in the Central. Winnipeg and Nashville probably battling for a playoff spot in the Central. You know, you would have seen more variety, but I still think Tampa would have been right up at or near the top.
Okay. And I agree. In fact, but you took a long way to get there, and then you didn't even actually give me something solid. So I'm going to take what you did. I'm going to take all your evidence and go even further and say, I strongly believe they would have been Stanley Cup champions for the last 2 years, regardless of if they hadn't played Montreal. They are by far the best team in NHL right now.
And I'm going to be the first to say it. I'm going to be the first to put Tampa on this show to win the Cup next year if they keep a large portion of this team together.
They are a team without very many weaknesses, and they have a lot of experience and a lot of skill. And like you say, if they don't lose too many guys because they have to get under the cap, I don't know how they're going to do it, but we'll see. But they are just a very talented team. And I believe they would have won regardless if there had never been any COVID. So for me, I don't put an asterisk by their 2 Stanley Cup championships in 2020 and 2021 and call them COVID impacted or COVID related or COVID excused or somehow. For me, and I'm not a Tampa Bay fan at all. Like, I don't follow them. I don't cheer for them. But to me, this does nothing to diminish how good a team they are and that they are Stanley Cup champions. They will be. I mean,
yeah, they got through 3 good teams to get here. So,
yep.
Yeah, there's not much to it. Getting under the cap, I think Seattle's going to take the player. To me, I think you unload the contract of Tyler Johnson and a few other guys, and then you're what, 10 million over the cap right now, ish, give or take 12 million. They'll find a creative way to do it. I have no doubt about it, and I expect Tampa to be right back where they were, contending for a cup next year.
Okay.
Unless Julian Breeswatt decides to have a fire sale in the offseason, which I don't see happening.
No.
And for the record, I still believe that this is Steve Yzerman's team, by and large, and Breeswatt's just put the pieces around. One guy I'm wondering if Tampa's going to lose is Bartley Goodrow. He's on an ELC. They'll have to figure out what to do with Cernak, Joseph, all those types of guys. But getting rid of salary for prospects just makes their prospect pool that much better. But for Tampa, if I'm Tampa this year, I'm working on fixing my prospect pool, making my prospect pool a little bit deeper. They did give up a lot to get David Savard. I do believe they have one more cup run in them, but I think what Tampa needs to do is they need to find a way to work around the edges and fix that 15, 16, 17 forward and that 8, 9, 10, even 11 or 12 defensemen for future. And then just to make sure that, they don't have to go through a major rebuild as a result of winning lots of championships. So it's a fine line.
Yeah. So who do you like right now for the playoff MVP?
Well, I could go one of 2 ways, and I'm going to make a caveat of this. I believe Nikita Kucherov will get it. I don't believe he should get it, if that makes any sense.
Okay, then who should?
Let me just preface by saying, kind of what you were saying. I don't think it's fair that he can just come in the playoffs and pick up where he left off, not having played in the regular season because the cap doesn't apply. I don't think that's cool. I know the rules say you can do that. I think they're going to close the loophole, but I would give some serious consideration to Andrei Vasilevsky. He has 3 straight shutouts in elimination games, 4 going back to last year. He has 1 goal allowed in the Stanley Cup final. His goals against average in the Florida series was like 2.52 or something like that, and it hasn't even touched worse since then. In fact, they showed a graphic the other night. It got incrementally better than the 2.72 in round 1 to something under 1 for a Stanley Cup final. And it's kind of the way Tampa's gone. Like, I think you giving it to Kucherov is the easy way out because he's going to lead the playoffs in scoring 2 years in a row. fine. If you want to do that, do that. But
and quite a bit.
You're not anywhere near where you are without Andre Vasilevsky. And if 2.72 is your worst goal to net average in round one, and you're better round two, 3, and in the final, you absolutely have to look at that.
Well, he was the best player on the ice for game 2. You could argue game 1 as well, game 2. Game 3, they just got out to a big lead, and then and then Montreal kind of had to.
But he had to hold. Bassey had to hold his team in there late in the first period and early in the second period. Remember, Montreal got outshot 11-3 to start the game. The 2-0 goal was shot number 11. After that, Montreal mounted a little bit of a push, where a couple of saves, a couple of goals here and there. They got it to 2-1. They had a couple chances to tie it 2-2, and Bassey just said, "Not on my watch," and they got it to 3-1. So, it's just one of those things where, they got it to 2-1 end of the first period, and then inexcusably came out in the middle of the second or early in the second period of the last game and got 2 quick goals. But until that happens, your goalie has to hold you in it. How about you?
Yeah, for me, it's between Vasilevsky and Kucherov. So to me, I guess, I don't know. I'm kind of.
Do you give Braden Point any consideration?
No, because Kucherov has just been too impactful. I mean, he's got more points by quite a bit than anybody else. So he's quite far ahead of everyone else when it comes to scoring. But at the same time, I do, to some, I agree with you. Like we talked earlier about the whole, you sit out the whole regular season, then you come in for the playoffs. Like, not that I begrudge Kucherov, because I'm glad he's healthy. I'm glad he could play. Like, I don't begrudge him that and think that he should be injured or hope that he's injured. But I guess what I'm saying is that if you don't play the whole regular season, there's something to be said for being fresh. He hasn't had any traveling to do. He's just been in, like, all those things wear on you over the course of a season. The travel, the games every second night, a lot of the back-to-backs. He had none of that. And then he comes to the playoffs. He's fresh. He's the freshest player out of all the teams that are going into the playoffs. He's the freshest guy. And is that a shock to me that he's that far ahead? And he's a skill guy. And now he's played really well. Okay, all the credit in the world to him. But to me, for that reason alone, if I'm that close between Vasilevsky and Kucherov, I go Vasilevsky. And now people say, wow, it's always easy to pick the goalie. Yeah, but there were games where he, like you said, he single-handedly kept Tampa in when the Islanders could have flipped the game, one more game to them, and could have won the series. Or in the second game that Montreal wins that game, it goes 1-1 back to Montreal. It's a completely different series, right? So I think I would I'd put my thumb on the scale a little bit more for Andre Vasilevsky than for Kucherov. So
yeah, and Bill brings up a good point. Any team, though, would have grabbed and used the same loophole as Tampa Bay did, sure.
Yes.
But I'm just saying they need to close the loophole.
Yeah, I don't like it. I know any team would do it. If the Jets would have done it, okay, fine. But I still, even if the Jets did it, I don't like it because it's an unequal playing field. And
here's another interesting thing, not to kind of beat the bush in any way, but there's not a lot of teams that have the luxury of doing what Tampa did and still have a very competitive team enough to make the playoffs. Tampa had the depth where they can put Kucherov on IR for the season. Now, he had, rightfully so, hip surgery if the doctors say he needs it and the PA doctors say he needs it. Fine. I'd go get the surgery. But I'll make the comparison. If this is Mark Scheifele on the Jets, or if this is, just to use a name, Connor Hellebuck, if Hellebuck needed the same surgery and he would have been out for the season but had an opportunity to come back for the playoffs, the Jets need to find a way to weather the storm to get in to the playoffs. I'm not sure they have the team to overcome it like Tampa does. Tampa had the ability. They played without Kucherov and without Stamkos at some point, and guys like Ross Colton and Braden Point and Victor Hedman and Mikhail Sergachev carried the mail to get into the playoffs. There's not a lot of teams that can do what Kucherov did and, get in with, yes, it was third place, but that goes back to what we've been saying on the last couple of shows now. Right. Get in to win. Full credit to Tampa. They have the lead MVP, not in all season. Get in the playoffs. They sure have a right to use them, whether it's right or wrong. And I'm just saying there's not a lot of teams other than Tampa that can afford to do that. So it's just very interesting, right? Like you take Connor Hellebuyck off the Jets, you tell everybody that he didn't miss the season. I'm not sure the Jets have the same level of success without Connor Hellebuyck getting the playoffs. You know what I mean? You take Austin Matthews off Toronto. Sure, John Tavares is there, but do they get in the playoffs based on their division, right? So Tampa had the luxury of a deep team, got some fortunate breaks, got in, and now they reap the benefits of playing without them under the loophole, which, Jerry Bettman has come out and said, and as Bill rightfully points out, they're already talking about closing the loophole, but it's going to be a big issue with the Players Association. I would concur with the second part of that. And you know what? In fairness, it is something that was not negotiated at the time, and Pandora's box has been opened, and unless it directly benefits you, you're going to have a problem with it. I'd be curious to see exactly what the players think about it. Do the players on other teams think it's a problem, or is it just a perception thing from the fan base? That would be interesting. Now, the other part of it is the NHL wants as much star power in the playoffs as possible.
Yeah, but Michael, think about it this way. Like, okay, let's go down this path a bit. Like right now, you have the trade deadline, which is roughly about what, maybe 25 games before the end of the season. I think roughly 20, 25 games, somewhere in there. So
2/3 of the way in.
Okay, so let's just say you have 25 games. You got 25 games to go. Normally, because the salary cap impacts your ability to make a trade. So if you're right under the salary cap, or you're $3 million under the salary cap, and you want to bring in a guy that's $7 million a year, you got to get rid of $4 million of salary cap. You got to shed it. You got to either release guys, or you got to trade them back, or you got to do something.
Or you got to get another team to take on salary and make it a 3-way.
Whatever it is, you got to get rid of $4 million to bring that guy in that's $7 million, because you only have $3 million left. But if you say, "Oh, I'm right up against the cap, and I've got only $3 million left," or up against the cap, and I want to trade for this guy for $7 million, why doesn't the team just decide, okay, we're going to trade for him, and we're just going to tell him we're going to put you on IR, on this upper body injury, mental health. You get a 3, or you get a month off, or basically you'll probably be about 2 months off.
Yep.
Train hard, we'll pay you, but you'll go on injured reserve, and then when the playoffs start, into the lineup you go, and then we don't care about the salary cap, whatever. Like, I'm just saying, it's not a loophole. It's just dumb. I don't know. The Players Association, to me, has too much power. That maybe brings us to another conversation. It's too much power. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. To me, if you're going to have a salary cap, the salary cap has to function all the time. Now, if you're going to say, "Oh, the salary cap, it works during the regular season, but it never applies during the playoffs," then what's to stop teams from just loading up and bringing in guys and telling them to just cool their engines, stay at home in the hot tub for 2 months, and then we'll fire all the cylinders? Then you're going to get all sorts of nonsense going that way. Like, it stinks either way. So to me, you either have a salary cap or you don't. And to me, the only way it works is you get rid of it. I agree. You have to get rid of this loophole. And if the Players Association doesn't like it, then you're going to have to negotiate it out or do something else. The players shouldn't be complaining. We just created another 22 jobs by bringing in another expansion team. So be quiet. You guys make more money than any money. All your contracts are guaranteed. There's no other league that has that. So be quiet. Shut up. Sit down. You get paid ridiculous amount of money. Really.
Yeah.
If you ask any general manager, and I've talked to a few people who are involved in hockey and who talk to general, and if you get the general managers with the microphones turned off and the recorders turned off, and it's all off the record, every single one will tell you the players have too much power. And it's true. They have too much power. They control everything.
We're going to have a situation where the players are going to owe the owners money because the owners won't even get their fair share of the revenue sharing. Revenues won't be nowhere near what they projected.
River. You only played 56 games. You should only get paid for 56 games.
Yeah.
56 out of 82. Prorate the salary. That's the way it should be. But I'm just saying, in general, the players have too much power. And this is another example that if you're saying, oh, we can't change it because the Players Association, oh, whoa, the Players Association. Go on strike. Go on strike. You go pounce on. I love hockey, but there's something about these rich baby millionaires that whine and cry about all this nonsense and all this and all that. Listen, you play a game that you love. You make millions of dollars to play hockey and have fun and live like a king. Be quiet, okay? So when we're asking for there to be parity in the league, for it to be interesting, like to me, you know what this does? If you don't address this issue, and we can open up for comments from the listeners too, but I think what it is, it kills the credibility of the league and of the game to me, because it makes it unfair, and it's just been exposed to a large extent this season. And I'm not begrudging Tampa Bay. They're playing within the rules. It's all legitimate. But sometimes even rules, even laws, they can be created for the right reason, or they're created at one time and you think there's a good reason for it. And then you start to use it, whether it's a law, even for the government or whatever, you use it for a while and you realize, ooh, that's got other consequences we never thought of. We have to tweak that law because as good as it was out of the gate, there were things we learned. We've got to tweak it because these other things have resulted as a consequence that we don't want for society. Well, it's the same thing with this. We created it, but it's got this thing that makes the league look bad, makes the league look unfair. It brings illegitimacy. Potentially fans look at it and say, I don't like how this looks for the game and for the way the playoffs play out and everything plays out. So you got to tweak it because ultimately you want your game to be credible for the fans and for the reporters and for the general public. And if it's not, people are going to say, the Lightning, like if I'm the Lightning, I don't want anybody to disparage me winning the championship, right? But there's that cloud there. People say, you were $50 million over the salary cap. How's that fair? And I know Dougie Hamilton said it. I don't know if you heard about that. Hamilton said, we just lost to a team that was $15 million over the salary cap. And then afterwards, they said, Dougie, what's up? I said, because somebody from the Players Association probably talked with him and said, Dougie, be careful what you say. And then he had to speak backwards and talk it back and bring it back thing. So right there, when the players are talking about it, the fans are talking about it, you have to address it. It's the elephant in the room right now. So I hope
they do stuff. And especially since the players get a lot of benefit. I think I don't want to say the warts have been more exposed this year, but when the general public at large has trouble making money because of the pandemic and they're being laid off and people are sick and in hospital and dying from a virus, it's not a good look for multimillionaires to pick fights, to I understand they need to make money, but the optics of what the general public and the general economy is going through far outweighs what athletes are going through. Like, they have it good despite the fact that a large majority of people up until very recently have not had it very good.
Mhm.
So I understand that aspect of maybe the complaining about the financials and stuff needs to kind of take a back seat. And, there's an old saying, right? Uh, read the room. Um, certain instances need to be, um, certain instances are better saved for other circumstances, is I guess my polite way of putting it.
Yeah. Yep. And I
And
still think owners, players get paid very well, but they're not owners, right? Like the players, if
mhm,
if in 1 year things kind of go down, let's say this year attendance dropped, so the league had to kick in all this money because the teams didn't have enough revenue to pay for the salaries. So what happens is, I don't know if folks realize this at home, but the NHL, like Mr. Bettman and Mr. Daly, they sit on this big chest of gold in New York in the NHL offices. They've got this big room. They've got a room, and the whole room is just filled with gold. It's just gold bars, and it's just this big pile of gold. And whenever Gary and Jim get a little bit warm, and it gets warm in New York City, they go on, they sit on that ice cold gold, and it chills them down. It makes them feel good. Well, the last 2 years, they've had to use that gold and pay players with those salaries because the teams alone cannot
yeah,
pay.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the NHLs have to get a line of credit for their owners, so that their owners can.
Yeah, but they're paying it for. But either way, they're paying it. But the league is paying the money. The league has the war chest of funds. And my point is, the players still get paid. There's no fans in the stands.
Yeah.
Not many jerseys are being sold, and the players still get paid 56 out of 82 games. So there's no risk for the player. The players have guaranteed contracts.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be bought out of their contracts if the team doesn't want them anymore, or if they sign a contract and then their talents start fading. You can't renegotiate their contract. They just say, nope, guaranteed contract. So there's no risk for the player. All the risk is with the owners. The owners take all the risk. So to me, owners need to make money. And I'm a player guy. I mean, I play hockey. I'd love to be a player and make millions of dollars a year. But to me, owners, they need more power. They take all the risk and they can get reward. But for how much risk they take and how many times they got to eat it, on the other side, they should have enough power to say, nope, this is the way it's going to be, and we're going to do it this way. And the players should just shut up and say, yes, thank you, sir. You're right. We should be very thankful for the fact that we can play hockey for millions of dollars. And that's the end of it. And I know some guys out there are going to say, oh, Rick, the players have been stranded. Yeah. Players are not in the Super Bowl anywhere. So
here's the thing, and Bill hits this comment right on the head, and I'm going to read it because I think it's very accurate. Who cannot live on one contract for $5 million a season for 7 years and not be happy enough to survive for life at 20 or 25 million over 7 years or so?
I know.
Quick and succinct, right to the point. I'm going to have that comment there for the rest of the show.
Yeah, it's true. And again, I'm not begrudging the players making money. I'm not saying they should each write a check for 50% of what they make and put it back to the owners. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is the players right now, through the last few negotiations, the owners have not been strong enough. I would say they need to be a little bit stronger and push back the players for certain things. You want a guaranteed contract? Guys want guaranteed contracts? Okay. If you want guaranteed contracts, then you're saying basically you want no risk. No matter what, you want to be paid because we're taking all the risk and you're taking none of it. Then we want some advantages our way since we take the risk when something happens like COVID, where we can't have fans in the stands for 2 years. So I'm just saying, but then if you say, oh, you don't want the contracts guaranteed anymore, oh, okay, now we do. Like right now, even 50-50 revenue. To me, that's a joke. Like, I get it, the players should have equal skin in the game, but then they shouldn't have guaranteed contracts. To me, as soon as they said we want guaranteed contracts, the owners should have said, fine, we're doing escrow, but we're doing 60-40 or 66-33. You can never have more than 30%, 33% of the total revenue. And if that works out to be 80% of what your contract is worth, we're only making 66%, you're getting 33%. So you're only getting 80% of your contract, no 100%. So to me, it's the problem where, and I don't want to say, no, I'm not going to use that expression. It's a bad expression. I'm not going to say, but where it's like when children start running the house, right? What house works? And I love my kids and they're adults now. But when you've got a 12 and a 10 and an 8-year-old at home, and they now say, we want to run the house. We want ice cream for supper every day. We want to stay up till 2 a.m. watching cartoons. And we don't want to do our homework. What is that? That's a nut house. That house crashes if mom and dad don't get control and say, we are the owners. We're running the show. We're putting everything at risk. You are contributors here. You're part of our family, but you have to play within our rules. And I think it's the same thing that's happened in the NHL. The players have gotten too much power when it comes to negotiating contracts, when it comes to guaranteed contracts, when it comes to just everything. And I think we're having a whole other conversation. We're not talking playoff hockey, but it's a good conversation because it ties into what the Lightning are doing. I just think that we're going to see, for the NHL to survive long-term, I think the owners have to get back a little bit more of the power. Whatever that shift is, whatever that balance is, I think it's tilting too much to the players and it has to swing back a little bit to the owners. Whatever that is, whatever the stakes are, however they negotiate. That's me. Somebody might have a different opinion, but like I say, now I put it out there. Now I'm going to get all sorts of hate mail, probably.
Actually, Rich, it's exactly the opposite. Well, I'm going to play one comment here. I wholeheartedly agree with you, Rich. The main word here is greed. As much as it's the owner's fault for giving them the money, that's true. That's true. They agree to hand out these checks to begin with. So
right. Because they want to win, right? That's where the players have them over the bar, is because they want to win, right? And what do you do? Like a guy like Wheeler, it's a good example. Blake Wheeler, he's 32, and now he comes up and he's in his prime and he's playing, and now you got to sign him for 6 years at $8 million a year. Are you going to get Blake Wheeler till he's 38? Are you going to get the same value at 38 at $8 million a year? But that's the going rate. 32-year-olds who are UFAs, and they're captains of their team, they signed 6-year deals for $6, $7, $8 million a year. And the owners have to do it. The general managers have to do it, because if you don't, it looks bad to the fans. It looks bad to the locker room. The other players talk badly about it. Look, when they didn't sign Andrew Ladd, I remember Wheeler was in the dressing room saying, we're going to miss out. Andrew Ladd is such a great player. We've missed out. He was all negative about that. Andrew Ladd goes to the Islanders. That was the best deal Chevy ever didn't sign, because Ladd signed a 6-year, $6 million deal a year. He played 1 year in New York, got injured, and New York's been on the hook for $30 million ever since for the other $50 million. And I'm just saying, again, the players have all the power. The teams don't have as much. And there is greed involved, but it's also, there's just something about, like in the NFL, it's such a good example. A guy signs a deal, but there's only a certain amount of money that's guaranteed. And the rest is, if you play good, they pay good, just like Deion Sanders would say. And if you don't play good, they ain't going to pay good. In fact, they ain't going to pay at all, because you're going to get cut, and somebody younger for less money is going to come in and take your job. Now, do I want that in the NHL? I'm not so sure. But I just think it's gone too much the other way, and I just wish, for the sake of the league and the sake of the owners, I wish it would swing back the other way. So, but I think there's so many things at play, right? There's a lot of things we don't even know about, like the escrow and everything else. That's all part of that, right?
You read the CBA, you'll have enough reading for a 3-month vacation.
Oh my gosh, the
last one I saw was 226 pages, plus the MOU that they signed last summer to get the game back on the ice was another like 75 pages.
Yeah, and let me just say, it's kind of funny when you hear union. Like, there's the players' union. They have an association. Like, you think about when unions started back in the 20s and 30s, that's when people were going down into mines and factories, and it was very dangerous and life-threatening and illness-threatening. And so unions arose for the safety of workers, not to be exploited, for children not to be exploited. It all had its day. It was very legitimate, right? But now you've got millionaires that are in a union. Like, to me, it makes me laugh. Like, oh my gosh, I'm making $6 million a year, but I'm being represented by the union because I've got a grievance to file with the league or with my team. Like, it, this is not somebody making $10 an hour, pumping gas or whatever. It's a millionaire, and he's got an association and a union representative that looks out for him. To me, it makes me giggle, but that's just me. So there, I've said enough. Here's
the interesting thing. Connor McDavid really never has to sign another contract again. He's set for life.
Exactly.
You bet. He's going to probably get almost the same amount of money the second time around.
If you get somebody, if you don't know how to manage your money well, if you get somebody to help you manage your money, if you make, like he's saying, if you make even if you play only 6 years in the league and you average $5 million a year, $30 million in salary, after tax, $15-16 million. If you just invest that, if you did nothing but put that in the bank and just lived off the interest and you never touched the money, you could live well for the rest of your life. So, but anyway, I don't want to talk about money anymore. So we should talk now. Are the Habs going to win 4 straight?
No, but
no?
I think they win tonight, though.
You think so? Okay. You think they're going to?
If you would have told me this series would have been a sweep, I would have said you're crazy way back when.
So you think they're going to have something in the tank to kind of play for their fans, and the Lightning are just maybe not going to have enough, and they say, we're going to go back home and win it at home. Okay.
Home in front of the friends and family, and I think the Lightning win this in 5. I'd be stunned if this gets back to Montreal for 6.
I think Lightning do it tonight. I just think Montreal sees the hill that they have to climb, and they'll put up a good fight and they'll do the right thing. But if they get down a goal or two early, I think it's over. I just don't think they have enough push in them to push back. So that's what I think. But
sounds great, Rhett. I'm gonna let you go because our time is up for tonight. Enjoy the game. We will be back next Monday, either on the radio or right back here, depending on what my situation looks like. And trust me, if nothing's not fixed by next Monday, I am not going to be a happy camper. Anyway, so watch on YouTube for Game Time Today, which will come your way tomorrow. Maddie Bulick is back co-hosting with me on tomorrow. She's been very informative, being a former hockey player, very insightful, looks more at the analytical side of the game. And then Brian Peterson joins me tomorrow as well, 1 o'clock for the Euro Cup semifinal preview show. Yep. And then Game Time Today at noon the rest of the week. Also a special edition of Game Time Today Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock, setting up the Euro Cup final as well. So for Rhett Petty, this is Michael Gill saying thank you very much for watching. Thanks for the interaction. This, I think, has been our best show of the season. Quite a discussion in the back half of the show. We're
going to have lots of mail in the inbox for next week's show.
I know. It's so far so dead. Rhett, you bring the fire. Sometimes conversations like these need to happen, especially in times like this. For Rhett Petty, this is Michael Gill saying thank you very much. Stay tuned to Game Time TV for more, and stay tuned to social media where next week's show will be. For Rhett Petty, this is Michael Gill saying thank you very much for watching, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.